Two drivers had their races destroyed by the exact same crash. Both of them were furious. Both of them walked away wanting Carson Hocevar to hear about it. And then they did two completely, wildly different things. One of them, Austin Dillon, went scorched earth, essentially declaring that he would not forgive Hocevar, would not help him, and had no interest in even speaking to him for a long time. The other, Bubba Wallace, climbed up onto the pit wall, sat down next to Hocevar, and delivered one of the most fascinating conversations you'll ever see between two frustrated competitors. A calm, almost mentor-like lecture that ended with a friendly pat on the shoulder. Same crash, same frustration, opposite responses. And here's why this is so much more interesting than just another driver feud. Because the way these two men chose to handle Carson Hocevar reveals a genuine, ongoing debate inside NASCAR about how you're supposed to deal with a fast, aggressive young driver who keeps causing wrecks. Do you scorn him and freeze him out, hoping the pressure forces him to change? Or do you take him aside and teach him, hoping wisdom lands better than anger? Today, we're breaking down exactly what happened, what both drivers actually said, and the deeper question underneath it all, whether the harsh approach or the patient approach is the one that actually works. Stay with me. Welcome back to Freedom Line News, the channel where we don't just chase the drama, we break down what really happened. If you're new, hit subscribe. This community is growing every week. Let's get into it. First, the incident itself, because you need to understand why both drivers were so upset. This was at Michigan, during the Firekeepers Casino 400. On a lap 63 restart, Carson Hocevar, in the number 77 Spire Motorsports Chevrolet, was trying to move left to go 3 wide as the field stacked up ahead of him, and he tagged the rear of John Hunter Nemechek. That contact started a chain reaction. Nemechek bounced off Bubba Wallace. Wallace bounced off Ty Gibbs. And that contact reached all the way to Tyler Reddick, who at the time was the championship points leader, sending him crashing hard and out of the race. Reddick's damaged car then slid back down across the racing surface, directly into the path of Austin Dillon, who had absolutely nowhere to go. Dillon plowed into him. In total, it was a 9-car pileup that also collected Denny Hamlin, Joey Logano, and Kyle Larson. Dillon finished 36th, his number 3 Chevrolet, the iconic number once raced by Dale Earnhardt, trashed. And here's the crucial context. Dillon had genuinely fast car that day, in what has been a difficult, disappointing season for him. So to have that race ended, through no fault of his own driving, by someone else's aggressive move, that stung badly. So let's start with Austin Dillon, because his reaction was raw and unfiltered. Speaking to the Prime Video broadcast after being released from the infield care center, Dillon didn't hold back. He said, and this is a direct quote, "I hope at some point he figures it out, but I know I'm not going to show anything to him for a long time. I'm mad because we had a fast race car." Think about what that means. I'm not going to show anything to him for a long time, that's a driver saying, in NASCAR terms, that he will offer Hocevar no quarter, no cooperation, no courtesy on track for the foreseeable future. And he went further, expressing a weary frustration that this keeps happening, saying it's the same stuff every week from that 77 car, and that it just is what it is. And it wasn't just Austin. His grandfather and team owner, the legendary Richard Childress, was even harsher. Over the team radio, in the immediate aftermath of the crash, Childress delivered a brutal line about Hocevar, a genuinely cutting personal insult about the young driver's intelligence. So from the Richard Childress racing camp, the message was unified and it was cold. We're angry. We're not letting this go and we don't respect the way you race. That's the bad cop. Zero warmth, maximum consequence. Now here's the complete opposite. Bubba Wallace was just as frustrated in the moment. He admitted afterward that he was, in his words, genuinely angry. But instead of venting to the cameras and freezing Hocevar out, Wallace did something remarkable. After the race, he climbed up onto the outside pit wall, sat down right next to Carson Hocevar, and had a long, calm, private conversation with him. It went on for several minutes, and by all accounts, it stayed respectful the entire time. Wallace did most of the talking, Hocevar nodded along, and the whole exchange ended with the two of them tapping each other on the shoulder before going their separate ways. No shouting, no threats. And what Wallace actually said is the fascinating part. He didn't tear Hocevar down. He built him up first and then delivered the lesson. He told Hocevar he was jealous of his speed, that Hocevar is one of the fastest drivers in the entire field, and that it's natural ability. But then came the wisdom. Wallace passed along a piece of advice that Kevin Harvick had given him years earlier. Stop hitting stuff, and your finishes will show. He told Hocevar plainly, "You're fast. A lot of us are jealous of what you can do, but we're beating you because we can put a full race together better than you can." In other words, your talent isn't the problem. Your decision-making is, and the mistakes are the only thing standing between you and consistent victory lane. That's not an attack. That's mentorship. That's a competitor caring enough to teach rather than just punish. And Hocevar was receptive to it, saying afterward that he understood Bubba's point and perspective completely. And this is where it gets genuinely thought-provoking, because these two approaches represent a real, long-standing debate in NASCAR about how to handle a young, aggressive, threatening driver, and history suggests the answer is complicated. There's a well-worn tradition in this sport of the established veterans, scorning a rising young star who threatens their results, and it has, at times, actually worked to blunt that driver's progress. The most cited recent example is Ross Chastain, who a few years ago drew intense scorn from multiple veterans he'd tangled with, and then noticeably tailed off for a stretch. So Dillon's cold, punishing approach isn't just emotion. There's an argument that freezing a young driver out and making his life difficult can force him to dial it back. But here's the counterpoint, and it's a strong one. Some of the most respected voices in the sport think Hocevar should not change at all. Dale Earnhardt Jr., calling the race, was clear-eyed about it. He said plainly that Hocevar started the wreck and deserved the criticism, but he also said he doesn't want Hocevar to change what he's doing, because that aggression is exactly what makes races exciting and makes Hocevar a compelling driver to watch. And Hocevar's own team co-owner said he didn't want his driver to change either, and frankly didn't understand all the criticism from the other drivers. So you have a genuine philosophical split. Is Hocevar a problem that needs to be corrected through Dillon's punishment or Bubba's teaching? Or is he a rare, exciting talent whose aggressive edge is a feature, not a bug, and shouldn't be sanded down at all? And that's what makes this moment so important for Carson Hocevar's career. Because he is genuinely at a crossroads. Let's be fair to him. This is a driver having a strong season. He picked up his breakthrough first career Cup win at Talladega. He's been running consistently near the front, with multiple top 10 finishes, and he'd climbed to 7th in the championship standings with a comfortable cushion above the playoff cut line. He has real, undeniable speed. The nickname going around the garage, the Hurricane, captures both sides of him perfectly, thrilling and destructive in equal measure. So the question he now faces is the exact one Bubba and Dillon framed from opposite directions. If he tames the aggression too much, he risks losing the very edge that made him a race winner and a top 10 points driver. But if he keeps racing the way he has been, he risks the slow accumulation of exactly what Dillon promised him. Enemies who won't help him, who'll remember, and who may eventually repay the favor on track when it hurts most. Bubba offered him the roadmap to thread that needle. Keep the speed. Cut the mistakes. Whether Hocevar can actually do that, whether anyone can be that fast and that aggressive without the crashes, is the question that will define the rest of his season. So now I want to hear from you. Which approach do you think actually works better on a driver like Carson Hocevar, Austin Dillon's cold, punishing freeze-out, or Bubba Wallace's patient, mentor-style teaching? And the bigger question, should Hocevar tone down his aggression, or is that edge exactly what makes him worth watching? Drop it in the comments, hit like, and subscribe to Freedom Line News, where we cover every NASCAR story with the detail it actually deserves. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.